Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Hello, folks. Hi, Stephanie. Sorry, I've been away for a couple of weeks. Been crazy. I hope you're all doing well today. I did miss you the last couple of weeks, but I'm back today. I've got one of those little mints in my mouth. I thought I would be done with the mint before we started, but that's okay. I'm not done. I hope you all can hear me okay. Hello, Tony. Hello, Larkwood. Oh, Larkwood missed me the most. Bless you, bless you, bless you. Getting some water in. Okay, so I wanted to start today with just a little discussion before I start taking all of the questions about some of the, and I might have to remove this mint. I don't know if I can talk and have a mint in my mouth at the same time. But as you all know, or maybe you don't know, I've been very much taking in the work of the esoteric spiritual teacher Rudolf Steiner. And I wanted to share a book I've been reading from him. I think I have it all queued up, so I'm just going to share my screen. Here it is. The book is called Founding a Science of the Spirit. Let me put I hope this is coming in. Yeah, I think this is coming in on all platforms that I'm on right now. But this does connect with, for those of you that are on the natural health path and you're trying to maybe heal a specific physical issue, or maybe you just want to kind of feel better, but you're finding it very hard to stick with, a diet of just pure fruits and vegetables or juices or whatever, type of natural remedy that you are choosing. What I find, if we can take this journey of healing ourselves and align it with, a spiritual directive. And I find that, reading books such as Founding a Science of the Spirit by Rudolf Steiner, I recommend this book as a good starting place for Rudolf Steiner's work. He has many great books, but I think this book in particular, not only does it lay down practices, spiritual practices that one can partake in, but it also gives you a lot of very deep and esoteric information or details about the spiritual life and the spiritual planes. It's quite remarkable read. You can see I've been highlighting it. On other podcasts, I have discussed things like, man's four bodies. So we have the physical level, the etheric level, the astral level, and then the ego, the I, the ontological level. That fourth level is kind of more the higher spirit, where we align with, that I am presence, the, differentiating us from other beings, if you will. The physical level we share with all of the material and mineral world. The etheric level we share with the plants. So the plants, humans, and animals all have a physical and an etheric body. And then we move on to the astral level, which the plants do not have an astral level to their being, but animals and humans do. And then what differentiates humans from the animals is that fourth level, the ontological level, the I am ego level. And when Steiner uses the word ego, he's not using it like, that jerk is an egoic ass. He's not, that ego that kind of makes us just want things for ourselves and we don't really mind any other being. It's the I am presence. So this book gets into a little bit about what happens, after, he gets into comparing sleep with death. And I don't know, it just answered a lot of questions for myself, but I find that a practice that one can partake in while doing a cleanse, a juice cleanse, a fruit cleanse, an all raw food cleanse, anything to better your physical body. When you're doing something alongside improving your other bodies, the etheric, the astral, and the egoic levels, and partaking again in practices. Some of the practices Steiner speaks of are meditation, obviously. So focusing on just one thing, whether you choose a mantra or just focusing on like a pen or a pencil, and just having that as your only thought for an extended period of time. Start with 5 minutes and then 10 minutes, and make this something that you dedicate yourself to every night or every morning. Another practice that you can do is to look for the positive. So spend a certain number of the days where you're just only going to focus on finding the positive in everything you are connected to or interacting with. So there's other things that you can do, but I wanted to start with that today because I do feel like if you're going to do something like cleanse your body, why not add that spiritual component? And I particularly like the work of Rudolf Steiner. He has answered so many questions for myself when it comes to my own spiritual work that I just want to share the love, really. So Theosophy is another great investigation. Steiner was a theosophist, but he kind of, separated himself and then started his own group, anthroposophical group, Anthroposophy, which has many of the same principles as Theosophy. And I won't get into all of the details of why Steiner did that. But here, this website, the Theosophy World Resource Center, it does define a lot of the terms. Like when I'm reading Steiner's book, sometimes I don't understand, what certain terms mean. So I can find them here. As a typical dictionary that, like Kindle or whatever dictionary you might have, they might not know truly what Kamaloka is that Steiner might be referring to, or the Devachan. And then, you can see kind of cool things like this, like human constitution. So these are just some of the things I have been reading up upon. Steiner gets into reincarnation, all of the different bodies. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that. I will stop sharing my screen here, and I will see if anybody has any questions before we get started. Hopefully I can get this mint. I don't want to like bite into it because I'm technically juicing it, so I feel like I'm drinking the mint, if you will. Well, 58 Deb Jean. Hello, 58 Deb Jean. Welcome. Since you said you're new here. And Sarah is here. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. Otherwise, I can just keep talking about Steiner. But I'll give you all a chance if you do have questions or if anybody's here. I know being off well, I wasn't necessarily off. I just kind of had other things to take care of. But I'm here today and I should be here throughout. The only thing is I will be going to visit Dr. Morse the first week of August. I think it's the week of August 4th. That following Friday, I may or may not be able to make the live stream. We'll see how I feel because I'll be coming back that day. So I'm not sure. My puppies may need me, to take them on a really long walk because I'm a little concerned. I've not been on a trip. I don't know if you can see the little puppy right there. That's Loretta. And I adopted her in 2019. And I've not spent one night away from her ever. So her whole life, she has been by my side, sleeping with me in my bed, cuddling with me. And I'm a little concerned about how she's going to respond to my trip in a couple of weeks. Fortunately, my mom is going to be babysitting for me, so I'm very grateful. And Loretta does know my mom, but my mom is not me in Loretta's eyes. So we'll see how everything goes. That's the only major thing I'm concerned about, but I am excited to see Dr. Morse. I haven't seen Dr. Morse since, I guess it was 2017, when I was working down in Florida with him. Yeah, I haven't been back since 2017, so I'm excited to see him and some of the other people I used to work with. So Dr. Morse and I are going to be recording some V-books together. We're getting into topics such as why humans are biologically frugivores. I'm going to make some notes. I kind of think we're spiritually frugivores as well. When you get into kind of occult types of practices, and you look at many of the great philosophers and spiritual scientists of history, they won't tell you this, but you read it about them in other people's works. But all of them, like Pythagoras, and I don't want to quote others that I'm not 100% sure on, but I know Pythagoras was a vegetarian. I believe Aristotle was, but many of the, high level occult spiritual men and women of our historical past, they aligned with a diet that was very pure, very natural, and did not accompany the suffering of any other living being. So the reason why, I think that this type of diet is so important, the mint is almost done, is that it does free up energy in our body when you eat more simplistically and high energy food. So fruit in particular is incredibly high energy. It is, I'm just gonna have to chew this mint, but it is the easiest food for us to digest because it's already in a pre-digested state, if you will. I mean, it contains monomers, it contains amino acids, monosaccharides, vitamins, minerals. So we really don't have to break anything down. I mean, even with certain vegetables, you still have to chemically digest them. So like potatoes, carrots, starchy vegetables. Starch is a long polysaccharide, and we have to use enzymes like amylase to cleave the bonds between the glucose molecules in order to get that down into the smallest subunit. And starches, you're just getting 100% glucose. With fruits, you're getting more of the fructose. Fructose, as Dr. Morse has come to see it, is kind of the advanced monosaccharide. Dr. Morse shared a study where they highlighted how in the brain, our neurons convert glucose that is easily absorbed in the brain. The brain is the only organ in the human body that does not require insulin to absorb the glucose. And as soon as that glucose comes into the neurons of the brain converts it into fructose, which is, kind of remarkable. Why into fructose? There is something about, when we look at the oxidation of these monosaccharides for ATP production, fructose does tend to be a little bit more beneficial in producing more ATPs. So that could be part of the reason, but there could be something else too. It's really hard to know all the truth about everything. As a scientist who is trained traditionally in the traditional sciences for most of my life, well, I shouldn't even say most of my life, but most of my life, because I really didn't get into Rudolf Steiner until a few years ago. But as you learn the traditional sciences, and then you get into more of these esoteric types of topics in the biological sciences, especially, it's just amazing how you can really understand the truth about how the human body and the world, the earth, the universe, the cosmology of it all, how it really is structured. And it's not even structured per se, but just the different permutations of life and essence. All right, so there is a question that has come in from Stephanie. Stephanie writes, would you please explain why starch is so addictive and why more so than fruit? What is happening in the body when we eat corn, wheat, potatoes, etc.? I've got the hiccups. Starch is quite addictive. And it could be that, starch, when we, eat it and we take it down into the stomach, it probably stretches the stomach more so than fruit does. So it will satisfy those stretch receptors in the stomach lining that tells us, we're full. And that can, bring forth a feeling, I guess, that some people find to be pleasing. And any kind of pleasing feeling can be addictive. Anything can be addictive. Sugars, or I shouldn't say sugars, but fruits. Fruits, unless you eat a very large volume of them, we don't really overly fill ourselves on fruit. Now, with watermelon, you can do that. I've eaten a ton of watermelon to the point where I'm like, okay, I can't eat anymore. And the beautiful thing about fruit is that you get to a point of satiation that's more natural. So, especially when you're mono eating fruit. So if you're eating just one type of fruit for a meal and you just eat all that you care of that specific fruit, I think that's the best way to take in nourishment. And it's the most natural way for your body to adapt with its natural inclinations, that you won't overstuff yourself. Because you'll get so much watermelon in and you're like, okay, I just can't eat anymore. Or you'll eat so many apples or so many grapes and you just can't take another bite. Or something in your brain is telling you, I just don't want anymore. And so you just naturally stop. Stephanie then adds, is the breaking down of complex carbohydrates stimulating? I don't know. I mean, it's a little bit more taxing on the body compared to fruit eating. I mean, we don't really need to break anything down to digest fruits. Some fruits, like, sugar cane, have disaccharides. Sugar cane has sucrose, which is two sugars bonded together, a fructose and a glucose. And so you do need an enzyme to cleave that disaccharide into two monosaccharides, because in the digestive tract, we can only absorb the single sugars, the monosaccharides. And I don't know if that would be a stimulating process, but it's definitely a more taxing process. It requires more energy. Again, but other fruits where you're just getting the monosaccharides in the fruit by itself, there's no energy required, which is beautiful, because then all of the energy that you would need to break that food down like a starch, you can use that energy for healing or regeneration, because your body, has so much energy that it can pull from for various activities. And we don't want to spend so much energy in the process of digestion. Digestion as a whole is a very demanding process. It's energetically demanding. And I think many humans, going on this point of requiring energy, humans have this tendency to want to do things to dull the overthinking mind. And this is what, coming back to Steiner and some of the occult practices, like focusing on one thing at a time for an extended period of time, or meditation. Training the mind to do something very focused is a skill that will pay off. And Steiner gets into this in his work, because after we die, there are certain things we can take with us in our, astral body, if you will, certain subtle things that we've built up in this lifetime can be carried on. Many things cannot, like our physical form, even our etheric form doesn't get carried with us after we die, but other things can, other skills and talents that we've developed in this lifetime will have an inclination when we reincarnate to naturally rebuild what we've already strengthened in previous lifetimes. So what I'm getting to is so many humans aren't doing these things of training the mind, of focused thought, of meditation. Instead, we want to dull the mind. We want to turn off our higher capacities and just kind of veg out, just kind of, distract ourselves. And that is such an addictive thing to do, right? So, when you're doing things that require more energy, that are taking energy away from those focused practices, we can put into that category of distractions as digesting hard to digest foods. I mean, what are some of the hard to digest foods? I mean, the hardest to digest food is going to be, the animal proteins. They're very complex in shape. They have to be denatured, and then they have to be proteolytically cleaved by a variety of enzymes from both, the stomach and the pancreas released into the small intestine, even enzymes lining the wall of the small intestine. So much is needed to break down proteins into single amino acids. But worse than that, most of the protein we're getting in our diet, if you're eating animal foods, has to be cooked. I mean, if you're going to eat protein, get it from a plant source, because at least you can eat it in its raw state and you don't have to adulterate it. But when you eat animal protein and you've cooked it so that you don't get some kind of infectious, not that I believe in the germ theory, but you don't get something toxic in your body. So, cooking can kill off many of the toxins or, damage them to some extent, but it's also denaturing and creating unnatural forms in these complex protein shapes that then become the mucoid plaque in our intestinal lining, or something unnatural that we absorb into our bodily fluids, then becomes antigenic and can create immune types of reactions. So protein as a whole, is the hardest to digest. But then after that, you have your fats and your starches, which also require a lot of enzymatic activity. So I think that, when we come back to the fruit and just how simplistic it is, by freeing up so much energy for us, because it's easy to absorb those nutrients that are already in their pre-digested state. They don't need to be digested. So we just directly absorb that. And then can we use that high energy in molecules like fructose with all of the other phytonutrients that are packaged? Can we use that for the mental activity that we are meant to work upon to advance ourselves in this lifetime? Can we do that? Because that is the path, that I think is the most rewarding in this lifetime, but it's also the most challenging path for most humans to align with. We rather distract ourselves with a variety of hard to digest foods or activities, like social media, cell phones. I mean, think of everything we distract ourselves with. Even reading books can be considered a distraction, unless you're reading like spiritual books, or I don't know. It's all, it's being a human is so very interesting. And I honestly feel like before we incarnated into this life, we made a pact with our higher self that these were the things we were going to work on in this incarnation. And so many humans have dropped the ball. We're not doing that work that we need to be doing. Another thing, again, Steiner gets into is, what happens after we die and how we go into Kamaloka. I mentioned, that word was defined in the Theosophical resource that I showed you, that website. Kamaloka is such an interesting place because it's the place the astral body goes to after death. And it's the desire state where all of your desires guide you. You're basically triggered by all of your desires. So everything else you've developed in this physical form, your thinking mind, that goes away. You just have desire. And it's very, problematic. I mean, think about a person that's addicted to food, addicted to, greasy animal products, fatty foods, any kind of food you're addicted to, any food, starches. After you die, you will desire that, and you don't have the faculties to ingest that, to digest it, to absorb it. You can't do that after you're dead, right? You won't be able to. So what you have to do is you just have to let those desires burn away, and it will take time. And this is, I think, where people misconstrue these states after death with states like being in hell, right? Can you imagine, having all of these desires and not be able to fulfill any of them because you don't have the physical form to eat? You don't have a mouth, you don't have fingers, you don't have any of these things that can pick up, a hamburger and bite into it. We have to start, letting go of all of these addictive things now. This is the time where we build up this ability to let go of all of the addictive things. And fruit, I think, if you're going to eat anything, is the easiest to ingest, digest, and absorb. And I think being on a fruitarian diet will pay off, because after you die, you probably won't desire the fruit because you'll be freed of those heavier foods. You'll just be in a state of bliss, and you'll go right straight to Devachan, which comes after the, maybe we can go back to that one more time. Just one more time, just so we can appreciate these terms. And I promise I will come back to your questions. But Kamaloka, as you can see here from Theosophy World, this is the state after death that the astral body goes to. Sometimes they consider it part of this astral state after death, where the emotions dominate, your desires dominate. So you have a desire form, right? And all of this has to be let go of. And if you come in after death with a lot of addictions, a lot of desires, this is going to seem like hell. So you have to let all of that dissolve. And it's better to start letting some of that dissolve in our physical incarnation. Stop desiring. Desire nothing. Meditation can help be part of that path, because when you go into that meditative state and you're, just focusing on one thing or not focusing on anything, no thoughts, no mantra, just being, you'll reach kind of a transcendent state of being. So transcendental meditation is something I personally practice twice a day, every day. But you want to get from Kamaloka to Devachan, which is kind of the God state. And this is where the astral being will go after it has dissolved all of the desires. All right, so anyway, we can start working on that now. And I think, Dr. Morse is a very spiritual man. And I think this is why many men of spirit, many great thinkers, many great philosophers have chosen this fruitarian path, have chosen a diet of fruits, of grapes, of dates, of figs. Look at, when you go back and look at, ancient Greek types of works, they always show like the fig tree or the dates or the grapes, and somebody sitting there with just grapes and they're eating them. I think that there's something to that. And, yes, maybe they didn't have all of the processed crap that we have today. They're not sitting there eating bags of Doritos or anything else with a bunch of stimulating chemicals in it. But, the fruit is just very simplistic. And, there's something to be said. Does man even need to eat it all? Are we ascending to a state of not even requiring food? So going at times fasting, letting the body be without. That's a great way to start letting go of those desires. All right, so a lot of questions have peeped in. Stephanie writes again, I ask as a recovering starch addict, white bread was my drug and I called it heroin, and now I eat so much fruit but never have the same high feeling as I did from bread. Well, there could have been something stimulating to that. Were you eating the bread all by itself? That's a good question. I mean, white bread, there's the saying, the whiter the bread, the faster you're dead, or something like that. White bread is just so, it's a lot of the white flour foods, the white starchy foods, they are very stimulating because it's not, that a lot of processed white bread, especially like, the bread you get at the grocery store, it doesn't have a lot of fiber in it. And, even like wheat bread, whole wheat bread, you have to be careful because a lot of times they just add like a caramelized color to make it look like wheat, but it's not really wheat. It's just disguised white bread. But these foods, when you digest them, yes, you'll break down the white bread into thousands of glucose molecules. You're getting so much more glucose with starchy foods as opposed to fruits. And fruits, you're getting more of the fructose along with the glucose. So you're getting a mixture of both. But with the starchy foods, especially the flour products, the breads, the white breads, you're getting just 100% glucose. You break it down into glucose molecules that you then absorb en masse into your blood, and it does spike your blood glucose quite high. Very similar to sugar. If you're just like down a bag of just good old cane sugar, CNH, pure cane sugar, that white stuff that it looks like, cocaine, because it is. It's stimulating. So that could be part of it, Stephanie. It could be just the fact that it digests so quickly into a lot of sugar, and then when you absorb that, you get that hit. And that hit is, like a drug hit. All right, next question. This is from our newcomer, 58 Deb Jean. Someone said they had high ferritin levels. They took copper to lower it. Foods higher in copper are mushrooms, cashews, beef liver, oysters, sunflower seeds, dark chocolate, potatoes. What's the best fruit to eat? I've heard for iron, see, blackstrap molasses cup. I don't know, for some reason, I think I've read that blackstrap molasses, not that I'm particularly recommending that, but there could be some fruits that might be beneficial. Maybe dates. I don't know. I'd have to look into that. I just usually tell people to eat a well-balanced diet, and a lot of times imbalances work their way back to balance when everything has been well, let me put it this way. There's more to nutrient deficiencies than just getting the nutrients from our foods. It's kind of what are we absorbing? Because you can eat a bunch of food with a specific nutrient in it, and maybe you're not absorbing any of it. So you do have to take into consideration, the microbiome of your intestinal tract. And I'm not a big proponent of taking probiotics. I mean, maybe short term they can be okay, but long term probiotics really aren't going to fix your issue. What you need to do is eat a species appropriate diet, and doing that for an extended period of time will naturally develop those specific beneficial bacteria to take up residence in your GI tract. And then once they're there, they help with the natural absorption of the nutrients the body needs so that deficiencies are no longer a problem. So it's hard to say, I don't really tell anybody, oh, eat this for this mineral or this vitamin or this nutrient. I basically tell people, to eat a hydrating diet, a diet rich in water, the H3O, if you will, which is the water that comes from the fruits. That is structured water. It's the high vibrational water. And when it's absorbed with all of the other nutrients that the fruit delivers, you're just going to get the highest bang for your buck, really. And people feel amazing doing 100% fruit. It's beautiful. Oh, no problem, Stephanie. You're welcome. Sarah writes, it makes sense that there is a psychological attachment. It seems easy to be addicted to eating in general due to unconscious survival requirements. Yes, eating and digestion overall, it's so energetically demanding. And it will take energy from your mind, which can be addictive, right? Because your mind doesn't have to worry about thinking all of the time. You can just, sit back and let something else do the thinking for you. That's what humanity has come to. We've become well, I shouldn't say we are by nature a programmable species. And I think it's important that we program ourselves, do the practices that Rudolf Steiner shares with the world in his various bodies of works. Program your own mind. But again, many humans choose to allow others to program them. And the biggest programmer out there is government. Government means mind control. The word government etymologically means mind control. Gubernare means to control, and mental means mind. So they put it right in our face, these entities, and they're telling us, what their intention is. Like with this upcoming election, doesn't matter who wins, government's still in power. So, the two-party system, they're two sides of the same coin, and that's the cult or religion of government, which is why, I see government as something we need to detach from. We need to be, our own authority, our own programmer of our mind, not letting the government and its various systems that it has, put into society, like education and healthcare. All of these are not healthy types of systems. Modern education is coming from the Prussian system of how to create, good tax slaves or good soldiers for the army, someone that will just, be a good order follower. That's what our modern educational system is to create order followers. And even like in education, it's like very cultish. I mean, I teach in academia. I'm a college professor, so I see how everybody, they want you to think a certain way. Oh, everybody in academia needs to vote this way. We all need to do this thing. And I just kind of step aside and I try to follow the practices of Steiner to find the good in everything. And I focus on other things other than the programming that they're trying to indoctrinate me with. But how did I get off on that topic? Hello, Tad. How are you? It's nice to see you here. Larkwood is writing, going to be flying all day. What do you recommend to snack on? Well, if you could bring some fruits with you, that would be good. I think, easy to travel with foods, maybe like some dates, grapes, whatever you can bring with you. I don't know, do they let you bring that kind of stuff on a plane? I haven't flown in so many years. And the flight that I'm going on to visit Dr. Morse is a short, well, it's a couple of hours. I don't know. Long trips, I would recommend maybe just water fasting, because most of the stuff, if you buy it at the airport, is probably not going to be the best. Even if it's fruit, it's probably sprayed. Sarah writes, white bread I don't think is generally healthy. The cheapest bread brands are using wood chips in the mix. Holy cow. They use it as a preservative, I think. I know that won't give any nutrients, at least. Yeah. We can't digest wood chips. Our gut bacteria can, but who knows what they spray the wood chips with. And then Tony writes, what do you think of B12 deficiencies? Again, our gut bacteria can produce vitamin B12 and other B vitamins. So, as we work on eating a species appropriate diet, the foods we take in become the foods that will attract the gut bacteria. And once we have inoculated our intestinal tract with the most beneficial bacteria for, the human species, the human being, those bacteria, they live in a symbiotic relationship with us. So they benefit from us, we benefit from them. They benefit from us because, we give them a cozy place to live. We give them free food. They can digest a lot of the fiber we cannot digest. So cellulose, we don't have enzymes to break down cellulose. That's the fiber that comes from all of the plant foods. They have enzymes to break that down. They do break it down. And so we're giving them food and a place to live. But to benefit us, they do synthesize various B vitamins for us. They synthesize biotin, what else? I think vitamin K also. And yeah, so they do that for us. They also prevent pathogenic bacteria. Not that I, believe in the germ theory, because I don't, but they prevent, the less desired bacteria from taking up residence, So it's like, if you have an apartment building, you want to have the best tenants in your apartment building. If you're the apartment owner, you want to have really good tenants that are going to do beneficial things to keep the apartment or the area clean and beautiful, maybe have beautiful plants there or beautiful artwork that they hang up. You don't want some, person coming in and throwing junk all over the place and, doing things that are nefarious in your apartments. You don't want that. And so is it with our gut bacteria. We don't want those not so great bacteria there. We want the good guys that are going to benefit us, not the bacteria that are not going to help us absorb nutrients and to help us create the vitamins and minerals that maybe we're not getting from our diet, but those gut bacteria can produce it for us. I mean, it's beautiful that when you find that true symbiotic partnership with the gut bacteria, that really, I think you can live on very little, you know? So that's what I say about that. Okay, Tony, oh yeah, that was Tony's question about B12. Gary writes, you mentioned some supplements from Dragon Herbs a few podcasts back. I believe adaptogens. How do they benefit the body again? So adaptogenic herbs, and yeah, Dragon Herbs sells one that I think is pretty good. Adaptogenic herbs are really, they're modulating. So they help to strengthen when you feel weak or when the body is weakened. So like if the adrenal glands are a little bit depleted, they can strengthen the adrenal glands. Or if we're like too overexcited, we're too high energy, maybe we're a little erratic, it can calm the body down. So they're kind of bringing the body into balance. So that's kind of the basic premise of how adaptogenic herbs work in helping the body heal. Hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, I do take from Dragon Herbs. It's called Super Adaptogen. I like that one. And it's a Chinese herb blend. So that's what I would recommend. Let's see. Sarah writes, I'm wondering if you or anyone in the chat knows of natural supplements that do the work of digestive enzymes. Yeah, I mean, the best thing to do is to strengthen the organs that produce those enzymes naturally. So, digestive enzymes we have obviously throughout the digestive tract. Our saliva contains salivary amylase and lingual lipase. The next place we have enzymes is in the stomach. We release in the stomach, zymogens, which are inactive enzymes like pepsinogen, which gets activated into pepsin, which is a protein digesting enzyme. We also have, when we're young, gastric lipase, which helps us to chemically digest fats, but it's meant to help with the fats from the mother's breast milk, because after the age of 2, we stop producing gastric lipase. And then in the small intestine, a lot of enzymes are going to be released. So the pancreas releases a lot of enzymes. Several are zymogens like trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen, and procarboxypeptidase. We also have another starch digesting enzyme, pancreatic amylase, pancreatic lipase to break down the fats, nucleases, because if you eat anything that used to be alive, it's going to have RNA and DNA, and the nucleases can break that down. So yeah, in the pancreas, you're getting a lot of enzymes, and you even have enzymes in the wall of your small intestine. They're called the brush border enzymes, and they just break down anything that hasn't been completely broken down into its smallest subunit. They ensure that it is broken down into the smallest subunit before you absorb it, because your small intestine can only absorb monomers, single units of the carbohydrates, the fats, and the proteins. So, the smallest subunit of the carbohydrate family are the monosaccharides like glucose and fructose. The smallest subunits of the protein family are the amino acids, and the smallest subunits of, the lipids are the monoglycerides and the fatty acids. So we want to ensure everything is fully broken down and it's not going to be irritating as it's absorbed into our bodily fluids. The fats are absorbed into the lymphatic system. The hydrophilic nutrients like the amino acids and the monosaccharides are absorbed into our blood plasma. So there was your little digestive system course for the day, or lecture for the day. Let's see. But yeah, Sarah, I typically recommend, I'm not a big fan of taking digestive enzymes. Maybe short term to help somebody get through, a digestive crisis, they can be very helpful. But optimally, you want to strengthen your organs that produce these naturally. Taking something that your body already produces can create imbalances, and your body can get dependent on enzymes. And then it gets to a point where, since you're supplying these enzymes all the time, you're not producing them as much. And keep in mind, when you eat raw fruits, raw foods, many raw plants come with their own enzymes to pre-digest the food. So you're getting the enzymes in the raw living plants, which is quite helpful. Let's see. Sarah also writes, I don't have the natural digestive enzymes in a large, on a large scale. It's part of the cystic fibrosis deficiency. Ah, I see. Yeah, I know sometimes with those, with those types of states, those disease states, that can be an issue. Were you told to take digestive enzymes? I'm just curious about that. And then Tad writes, papain from papaya and bromelain from properly grown pineapple, very helpful for digestion. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And pineapple is one of those things, unfortunately, like in the Midwest, it's hard to get really good pineapple. I wish, sometimes I do wish I lived closer to the equator where I could grow pineapple because it should be golden. There have been a few times at the grocery stores where I have seen truly golden pineapple and it was delicious, but a lot of times when I go to the grocery store, they're still green, they're not ripe at all. And yeah, and pineapple doesn't really ripen after you pick it. So it will ferment and turn brown, but it won't ripen necessarily. Stephanie writes, I also don't buy the germ theory. In the case of sepsis, however, would you still refuse antibiotics? I don't know. Antibiotics are so harsh on the body. It comes to a point with sepsis, like what? I mean, maybe in some water world scenario where, this big boulder lands on me and crushes my arm and it's broken open and I've got an open wound and the toxins are coming into my bodily fluids. Gosh, I mean, I think water fasting would be the best thing for sepsis, honestly, but I don't know. I think I would probably refuse the antibiotics because it's just, I've seen, with the clients I've worked with and people in my own family, I've seen a lot of negative side effects to antibiotics. And I think, looking back at my own history, when I was like 10 years old, I had pneumonia for 3 months and I was on some pretty heavy antibiotics. And I think they screwed my body up, honestly. I think they wreaked havoc on my digestive tract. Because the year after that, I was diagnosed with a disease. And, it's like, I don't know. I think it's all related to that antibiotic use. And, my mom didn't know any better. She's just following what the pediatrician told her to do. But, yeah, I think these antibiotics are just, I mean, look at the name. Antibiotic, anti-life. There, much of what we get from this accepted healthcare system, we are all forced to be a part of if you want your, health insurance to pay for anything. Many people have health insurance through their employer, so things can be a little bit more affordable. Even though I have health insurance from my employer, it doesn't cover anything because the things that it does cover, I don't want to be a part of. So all of the practitioners I go to, I have to pay out-of-pocket costs, out-of-network costs, and my out-of-network deductible is like $10,000, so I never meet it anyway. So I don't even bother trying to collect receipts because I think it's just a big scam. If I didn't love teaching so much, I don't know. But I've got, the cheapest healthcare plan from my employer so that it just covers everything. So if I am in an accident and I need medical, have a medical emergency and I have to go to the emergency room, that would be covered basically. That's why I have it. But my primary care physician, he doesn't take my health insurance. I go to an acupuncturist, she doesn't take insurance. I go to a gentle chiropractor who does, energy work and gentle kind of adjustments. She doesn't take insurance. So it's like, I don't know. I think I got backed up on the questions here. Let's see. Yeah, so if I had sepsis, I'd probably just water fast. Tad writes, fresh ginger also will help with digestion. Yes, ginger is amazing, as it has higher amounts of enzymes. Yeah, ginger tea is very soothing to the stomach. So good point there, Tad. Tad is a very wise detoxification specialist. So anybody here that needs a health consultation, if Tad is still offering them, I would recommend going to Tad. He does good work. Sarah writes, Creon is the pharmaceutical answer to this problem. We are given this from birth. It's designed for children, however, it doesn't work great. I've never heard of Creon. I guess it's something specific to CF. Now I'm going to look into that. Thanks for sharing that, Sarah. Let's see. Amy writes, health is wealth. Yes, thank you, Amy. Health is wealth. Tad also writes, Patty, you can grow pineapple in cold climates in medium-sized pots. You just have to have the room in your house, or you just have to have the room in your house by a window to winter them. I know, as I have done it several times successfully. Well, Tad, I'm gonna now start that because I have a beautiful window. It gets a lot of sun. I mean, it's on the same side of my house back there in a bedroom I don't use. And I have a little mini lime tree and a mini orange tree that I now currently have in my backyard that I put in front of that. But I'll have to do that with pineapple because I love pineapple so much. I would love to grow my own pineapple. I've seen some of like the little videos where you can like cut off the top of the pineapple, and I just juiced a pineapple today. And it wasn't, I mean, it was kind of greenish yellow, a little bit of orange. You know, many people say that when you eat pineapple and it's not fresh, it becomes kind of acidic. But anyway, I love pineapple. I do love the taste of it. Stephanie writes, thank you for suggesting a water fast and reaffirming my trust in the body. Yeah. You know, I always say also go with what you intuitively feel, but like I said, I've seen some pretty nasty things with antibiotics. Sarah writes, my theory is we are all, the CF kids, are out in the same box health-wise, so we are given stuff from the beginning, and this causes additional issues with our health. And no, it's quite unfortunate. I mean, a lot of these medications that children take from such a young age, you know, it's like, and trying to, you know, you're not just trying to heal the condition, but also detox yourself from all of these medications. You know, allopathy, when you look at the name allopathy, you know, compare that to another term, homeopathy. Allopathic medicine was actually named by the homeopaths. Homeopathy means same medicine. Allopathy means kind of anti. So you're going against, you're fighting. So in the nature of the term, it's like fighting something. And so I think, you know, I do agree with homeopathy based on its principle. It's just basically more gentler on the body. You know, I think with certain higher potency homeopathic remedies, you do want to make sure you're getting them professionally prescribed for you by a homeopath that knows what they're doing. But I do think that with homeopathy, it's just really trying to align your life force so that it will help you naturally detoxify. I think, you know, Stephanie has brought up, though, some concerns with homeopathy in that it diverts you from, you know, doing the deep work like cleansing and detoxing, because you still need to eat a healthy diet. You know, if you're taking homeopathic remedies and still eating, you know, McDonald's, what's the point? You might get some benefit, but not the maximum benefit. Okay, yeah, the business of healthcare is sad. Gary writes, muscle question. If you're born with a set number of muscle cells, what allows a muscle to grow and strength to increase? Is it just inflammation? No, not necessarily. So muscles, you are correct. Cardiac muscle cells and the skeletal muscle cells, those muscle cells, we do not grow new cells after we're born. The only muscle cells we do regenerate are smooth muscle cells. So those, they can divide mitotically to replace themselves. But like skeletal muscles in particular, there's really three types, but two main types. You have the white fibers, the white skeletal muscle fibers, which are mostly in your arms. And they're really good at like high intensity workouts, sprinting really fast. And then you have the red fibers, which are higher myoglobin content. Those are mostly in your legs and your postural muscles in your back. So like the arm muscles, which have more of the white fibers are better at growing bigger in size. And they have larger diameters as a whole. They have more of the protein bundles called myofibrils. And when you put stress on your muscles, that causes more protein synthesis in these muscles, and that's enlarging each individual muscle cell or muscle fiber. And that's what grows your muscles overall. I think the inflammation associated with bodybuilding is the fact that bodybuilders eat, taking a bunch of crap. They're drinking these protein shakes, very inflammatory. They're usually eating a lot of meat products. I mean, they're just doing so much inflammation on their body. And since most of their energy is going towards their muscles, when they're doing a bunch of weightlifting, that's going to, create a kind of localization of inflammation. So that's where I think the inflammation comes from. It is true that when you work any muscle, the cell membrane of the muscle fibers, which is called the sarcolemma, they do tear. So your muscle fibers will tear. And, when you're healthy, you can heal those tears quite easily. People with muscular dystrophy, they cannot heal those tears. And so over time, the muscle fibers die off, and that's replaced with non-functional connective tissues and adipose tissue or fat. And so they end up losing strength and losing ability to move their body because of that. But I don't think, necessarily you can be very healthy. Like if you are, a plant-based vegan athlete, you can grow healthy muscle tissue easily. And, just the process of putting stress, doing weight-bearing exercises, it's not only helping your muscles tone up, it's also helping your skeleton. And this is especially important for females because women, when we go through menopause and estrogen from the ovaries starts to decline down to almost zero, we do have a backup of estrogen coming from our adrenal glands. And, fat cells produce some estrogen as well. But the ovarian source of estrogen goes down to zero after menopause. And estrogen is one of those, Dr. Morse calls more of the acidic hormones. It's stimulating, it does keep tissue on the body. And it does help to keep calcium on the bones. And when you lose that estrogen, you start to lose calcium from your bones, and that can put you more at risk for diseases like osteoporosis. So doing weight-bearing exercises in your, 20s, 30s, even teens, the more weight-bearing exercise you do, not only do you tone your muscles, but you also strengthen your bones. Because whenever stress is placed upon a bone, and stress is placed upon a bone when a muscle contracts, because that muscle has a tendon attaching it to the bone. That tendon is pulling on the bone, and the bone will put more calcified matrix in the areas of stress. And over time, that means more and more calcified matrix being added to the bones strengthen. And when you start to lose bone matrix after menopause, you'll have so much calcium there from the get-go that you won't get to such a depleted state that now you're at risk for fractures, which is what osteoporosis is, where the bones become so depleted, they fracture more easily. All right, so that was my question. That was my answer about the the muscle. Sarah writes, have you seen the stuff people are posting about rubber foods sold as real food? Ooh, I have not seen that, but it doesn't surprise me. That's the one, problem I have with the vegan movement is all of the fake foods out there, like the fake meats, the fake eggs, the fake whatever. Don't eat that crap. That's just nonsense. Eat food in its natural state. Grapes that look like grapes are grapes. Cherries that look like cherries, watermelon that looks like watermelon. I know there's this transition thing that people feel like they have to go through, but honestly, if you want to switch to a healthy diet, I think fasting is a good way to get you into it. I mean, just do a juice cleanse. Do a 20 to 40-day juice cleanse and go through the shadow work of what it takes to just drink juice, or go on a mono extended fast, like nothing but watermelon or nothing but grapes for an extended period of time. And yes, it will be hell, especially if you're coming from, a modern Western diet, a standard American diet, the SAD diet. But once you get through that hell, which everybody has to do the shadow work and go deep within and do the spiritual depth work of facing yourself, of facing what your life is without all of these addictions of food that you've been eating for years and years and years. You don't want to get to a state where it has deteriorated your body and now you have some sort of chronic disease. Stop it before you get there. I'm telling you all, you don't want to be at a point where you're at the mercy of a healthcare field that wants you to just be a tax slave. Because if they heal you, it's not going to heal you to the optimal level that the fruit will heal you. All right, Tad writes, well, I will be happy to message you to give you the full direction how to grow the pineapples. Well, that would be lovely, Tad. Thank you so much. Yes, I would love for you to message that to me. That would be beautiful. Thank you so much. What causes inflammation? This is what Amy writes. Inflammation is a natural state in the progression of dis-ease. And I write it as I say it, D-I-S with a dash and then E-A-S-E, where the body is just not feeling well. So first you have an irritant that the body has been exposed to. So this could be something you inhale through the air, something you have absorbed from your diet, a stressor in your life. These irritants hopefully will give you signals that, hey, I'm an irritant. You probably should try to remove me. So take something out of your diet. Try to get cleaner air. Remove toxic people from your life. But if you don't remove these irritants, they progress to inflammation. So inflammation, it is a natural way to protect the body from irritants. Inflammation begins with the certain types of cells like basophils or mast cells. They release chemical mediators like histamine and heparin. And with these chemical mediators, it brings more blood to the site that's experiencing the chronic irritation. And so you bring in more blood, the area looks red, the capillaries become more permeable, so fluid leaks out. That leaked out fluid creates swelling, so you have swelling. The swelling will trap the irritant so that hopefully we can eradicate it more easily, but that swelling also, can create pain and discomfort. So these are the cardinal signs of inflammation: redness, swelling, heat, pain. It's a localized heat. Jeffrey Phillips is here. Welcome. But yeah, it's a localized heat. So it traps things in one spot so that you can get rid of those irritants more easily. If the inflammation progresses, so if that irritant has not been removed and you weren't able to eradicate it and it stays at that tissue, that inflammation will progress to what we call induration in the field of natural hygiene. And induration means tissue hardening because it starts to dehydrate the tissue. And then that will progress to tissue change, which could express itself as cancer or loss of tissue function. So that's where you get your chronic diseases. So it all begins with an irritation that usually, if you're in tune with your body, you can sense, okay, I have an irritant, I need to get rid of it. And then, maybe you ignored it because you really like Cheetos or Doritos, or eating hamburgers or some kind of toxic food, and you continue doing that, that progresses to inflammation. I mean, most of the chronic diseases these days are inflammatory based. So that like all autoimmune diseases, they are inflammation at heart. Cancer is, downstream of that. Hopefully that answers your questions. But yeah, it's all things that are, technically somewhat toxic to the body. Stephanie writes, from my perspective, most homeopaths don't understand how the body works, like the lymphatic system. Yeah, most healers don't know how the lymphatic system works. Good point. And Amy writes, or Tad writes, Amy, the simple answer to inflammation is acids. Correct. So acidic byproducts are inflammatory, but we get a lot of acids from the diet too. Yes, an alkaline diet is very healing. Fruits are very alkaline. And then Stephanie writes, she doesn't mean to totally disrespect homeopathy. She would still use it before pharmaceutical drugs. Yes, I agree. So yeah, we just have to get to the basics of healing is really to hydrate the body with the structured water that we get from fruits and vegetables. Those are the healthiest. And then that's the heart of all healing. And then if you have symptoms beyond that, maybe you can use a homeopathic remedy to address some of those symptoms. But if you're not changing your diet at heart, you're really not, getting to the basics of healing. And then Stephanie writes, symptoms are a sign of cure. Oftentimes it is. I mean, even with homeopathy, you can get like an aggravation, which is sometimes a sign that, the remedy is a good remedy, because there will be a little reaction that the body has as its vital force tries to reattune, realign. So, I do respect homeopathic remedies in that respect. Like I said, I work with a homeopath who does use very high potencies, like 10M, 50M, 100M. And he uses these to address more of the emotional state of being. And I've seen a lot of remarkable results from that. But, even coming down to like your 30C and your 200C remedies, you can do a lot of great acute types of healing with that. With my dogs, I've used homeopathic remedies and it's done wonders for them. And I think, when you look at a lot of the toxins used by modern veterinarians, I mean, it's like a no-brainer. Go with the homeopathic remedies. Because dogs, they get into some crazy crap, right? They'll eat something toxic off the street and you can't stop them. Amy writes, food is medicine. That is correct. And then Amy writes, oh, thank you, Amy. You're very sweet. And yes, Manish Kumar, I've tried to explain to you before, I don't own the website that offers my classes. I really can't do anything for you. You can talk to Dr. Morse if you'd like to have free access to our classes. But I wish I had the ability to offer these things for free. I try to offer free advice during my weekly Q&As, but that's about all I can do. So if people have questions, I'm happy to share. But the courses that Dr. Morse offers, that's under his school, International School of the Healing Arts. So you will have to reach out to him. If I could give you a one-day subscription, I would, but I cannot. But you have emailed me and contacted me multiple times, and I pray for you to find peace in yourself so that you can find the guidance that you want. I understand that you want to be a healer. There's lots of advice I try to help people with. So please come here if you'd like to ask questions. I'd be more than happy to help you. And in this video alone, I went through the digestive system. I went through the lymphatic system. So there's much learning that can be done here. Patty, explain to us your take on the homeopathic principle, like cures like. So yes, Tad, and that's what homeopathy means. It's the type of practice where you take in something and it's just really the energy of that something. So it's been diluted so much that all you have is the essence of it. You don't even have a physical speck of it left. So like arsenicum. Arsenic is a poison, right? Arsenic is a poison. So nobody wants to take arsenic. But you can take arsenic as itself and dilute it so much that there's no arsenic there in this solution. And then you take it and you take that solution and you like take little sugar pellets and you let those sugar pellets sit in that, maybe diluted solution of arsenic. It's called arsenicum. And it takes in the energy of that. And then when you take arsenicum as a homeopathic remedy, the symptoms that arsenicum would produce as its full physical form, arsenic, the symptoms that would create in your body would be the same symptoms that arsenicum would address in a person that was experiencing those symptoms. So case in point, in 2016, one of my dogs, he's since passed away. He passed away in 2016. I guess this remedy was given to him maybe in 2014 or 2015 because he was older. He was like 14 or 15 years old. And he was having a lot of anxiety and he was like moving around a lot. He wasn't calm. He would get up and run and he was very nervous. So I took him to my favorite I'm working with a homeopathic vet now, but before her, she took over for this other homeopath that I went to. His name was Dr. Urat. He passed away in 2019. He was a beautiful man, a beautiful soul. He had a way with animals. He really did. But he gave Zeke arsenicum. And I tell you, right before my eyes, my dog just relaxed and he was calm again. He didn't have to take any of those, anxiety drugs they give dogs to calm down. Just one homeopathic remedy did it. And then from that point on, he was a calm dog until, the day he passed calmly. I didn't have to sedate him or anything. He just naturally passed away. So these are the things I really like homeopathy for. I will say, and I've mentioned this to some other people, I find that homeopathy tends to work a little bit better with animals because animals don't have an ego to introduce these thought forms that might also interfere with the ability of the remedy to realign the vital force. I think with animals, it works more purely. So I would be more inclined to use homeopathy for an animal than a human. But I do know homeopaths that do a great job working with humans. And like I said, Dr. Rudy Versboer, who I recommend as a human homeopath, he also works with animals as well. He is a great resource, especially for, dealing with emotional events in your life's timeline. Helping your body deal with those, the trauma that you might have retained from that. It can help adjust your life force to release that more easily. So hopefully, Tad, that answered your question. Tad also writes, I have seen homeopathic formulas for helping people quit smoking cigarettes, and one of the ingredients was a homeopathic version of tobacco. I find it interesting but challenging to explain. Hopefully that explanation helped. Yeah, so you take a physical substance, and when you take that physical substance, if it's a poison or whatever it is, it might cause a reaction in your body. And whatever those reactions are, those are symptoms your body's expressing, usually to get rid of the toxin, right? Dilute that physical substance so that there's none of it left, but the energy of that substance. And then taking that as a homeopathic remedy will address those symptoms. So it's like you find the symptoms and those are the symptoms you need to address. That's the remedy you take. So hopefully that helps. All right, folks. You can see my son. That's baby Francis. He is so cute. I'm going to call it a night so that I can do my meditation, my evening meditation. But thank you all for joining me. I will see you all next week. Do look into the work of Rudolf Steiner. I will leave you with the book. I recommend it once again. Where is it? Let me go to the first page so you can see what it looks like. It's called Founding a Science of the Spirit. I honestly do feel this is the best Rudolf Steiner book to begin your esoteric studies with. And then after that, you can maybe go to Knowledge of Higher Worlds. But this book gives you a nice foundation of life in general. Like what happens in the dream state? What happens after death? What are the bodies that the human being is made up of? What are the different life cycles, or I shouldn't say life cycles, but what are the different realms of the planet Earth? You know, humans are Earth beings. We evolve with the Earth. And so there are different levels, just like humans go through different incarnations, so does the planet Earth. It's just a fascinating study that Rudolf Steiner has shared with the world in his clairvoyant knowledge and his membership as someone that belonged to the Theosophical Society and then developed anthroposophy. Anyway, I recommend this as a read. I would love to have, maybe a book group where we can discuss this in more detail. But thank you all for being here tonight. And I will see you all next week. I'll stop sharing my screen so I can say goodbye. Goodbye. Love you all. Baby Francis says goodbye too. Look at how cute he is. And there's Loretta. I think baby Francis is ready for me to give him some throws outside. He's got the ball in his mouth. All right. I'll see you all next week. Have a good night, Tad.